What are the scientific dates for the start times and end times of the events of each of the six creation days that are described in Genesis chapter 1? We at Reasons to Believe frequently get asked, can we please produce a chart where we have all these dates precisely lined up? And we have to communicate with them that in some cases we have accurate dates for when the events of a certain creation day start and when they end. In other cases, the dates are not yet well scientifically established. And in some cases, there's not much hope that they'll be accurately established. But for example, on creation day 1, it speaks about how God transformed Earth's atmosphere so that light could come through. And with that light, photosynthesis could begin. It tells us the Spirit of God was brooding over the surface of the waters. We see that as a reference to the origin of life on planet Earth, and we do have a fairly accurate date for that, 3.825 billion years ago, plus or minus 0.006 billion. So that would be the start of creation day 1. It's difficult to come up with a date for the end of creation day 1, the beginning of creation day 2. But day 2 talks about how there would be this stable water cycle, water in the atmosphere above in vaporous form, and how there would be precipitation coming to the atmosphere down to the waters below where they'd be evaporated. And Job chapter 37 and 38 describe in detail this water cycle, describing how it would be a combination of liquid precipitation and frozen precipitation in multiple forms. And that probably began around about 2.5, maybe 2.75 billion years ago, where we have a water cycle of that exquisite detail established upon the face of the earth. Then we get into creation day 3, and this is when continents first form, when we have Earth transformed from a water world to continents, and we now know that that is consistent with the beginning of what's called the first great oxygenation event. These oxygenation events are coupled with the buildup of continental land masses, and that date is 2.45 billion years ago. Then we move into creation day 4, and this is when the atmosphere goes from translucent or very hazy to transparent, and that takes place right after the last slush ball event that happened 580 million years ago. So it gives us a date for the beginning of creation day 4. Creation day 5 is where you see the first animals showing up on the face of the earth, and that would be the Avalon explosion at 575 million years ago. And then you've got the Cambrian explosion at 538 million years ago. Last of all, we have human beings that appear, and they appear on the end of creation day 6, and that's a time when 4 described rivers in Genesis 2 come close together. That location today is more than 200 feet below sea level, but would have been above sea level sometime during the last ice age, which means that creation day 6 ended about 15,000 to 130,000 years ago. If you want more details, get my book, Navigating Genesis. There we go through the 6 creation days, and we describe the scientific tools we have for establishing the start and end times of each of those days.